You know, you would kind of expect the PlayStation 5 versions of games to actually do things quicker than the Xbox Series X or the Xbox Series S in terms of loading specifically, especially given the fact that the PlayStation 5 has a solid state drive that's basically 2 times as fast as what the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S has. And so, you know, you would think that it would be pretty much a no-brainer that that console is really outdoing the Xbox consoles. Now, this is very much the case in some of the newer games like Resident Evil Village, which loaded in just over 1 second time on the PlayStation 5, while it took almost 10 seconds on the Xbox Series X. That's kind of in line with what we were expecting, just given the fact that Mark Cerny, back in his deep dive in March of 2020, kind of reiterated that games needed to really sort of take advantage of the hardware right away. And I think that's something that people forget. And, you know, we see that because right now there's games out like the Mass Effect trilogy, okay? And the Mass Effect trilogy, they did some actual, like, dissection of how it's running on the consoles and stuff like that. And it turns out that basically the Xbox Series X is running much, much better with that game than the PS5, and I see a lot of people talking about this on social media, and I kind of wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about it, and kind of clear out why. You know, it's not a situation where this game is actually even on PlayStation 5 natively or the Xbox Series X natively, and that's the biggest reason right there. Microsoft 100% did a much better job of making sure that backwards compatibility titles worked well on their platform. And I want to get into this right now, so let's get started. Hey everybody, Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews with a video. Thank you so much for checking it out. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that. You know, again, looking to help out the channel, that's the best way to do it. Thank you guys for rocking out with your boy. So anyway, I will link this so you guys can check it out. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X comparison. It's so weird, but it does show faster loading and slightly better performance on the Xbox console. A new Mass Effect Legendary Edition PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X video has surfaced comparing the freshly released remastered on the next-gen consoles. Now, following the release of the highly anticipated remaster collection last week, it was actually compared to one another, running on both Sony's PlayStation 5 and Microsoft's Xbox Series X. The analysis compares the frame rate and visuals of the game on the next-gen consoles, and while both versions are nearly identical graphics-wise, they do appear to be some minor differences in the game's performance mode. In addition, loading times appear to be faster on the Xbox Series X, which is likely due to Microsoft's better implementation of backwards compatibility compared to the features on Sony's console, which is what I was trying to tell people. Same thing with the frame rate situation. You know, due to the backwards compatibility features that Microsoft has, they're able to do 120 frames on the Xbox Series X, whereas the PS5 is running basically the PS4 Pro version and can only do the 60 frames. It's not that they couldn't do 120 frames, but you would have to patch it completely differently. You'd have to just put a full new patch in there. Both versions of the game run at 60 frames per second in native 4K resolution in quality mode. In performance mode, the resolution is lowered to 1440p on both the Series X and PlayStation 5, although this mode offers frame rates up to 120 frames per second on Microsoft's console, whereas the frame rate is limited to 60 on Sony's. It should be noted that in performance mode on the Series X, there do appear to be some minor drops. Now, according to this comparison, the PlayStation version of the game suffers from a few graphical bugs, which they can be seen in a video which is going to be, like I said, linked, and you guys can check it out. Obviously, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is available globally for PlayStation 4 and the PS5 via backwards compatibility, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and the PC, and it includes Mass Effect 2, and 3, alongside 40 DLC remastered and optimized for 4K. So I gotta say, I'm about halfway through the first Mass Effect in here. Absolutely brilliant, really good remaster. I think the first game, they fixed a lot of the issues. I mean, obviously it's still gonna look dated because it's almost a 15-year-old game, and so there is that. But the fact of the matter is, they've done such a good job with this that realistically, you can't really complain. You know, if you're a part of EA Play or a part of Game Pass Ultimate, You can, which includes EA Play. You can pick this game up for like $52 or whatever, 3 full games with all the DLC. Looks great. The music is great. The voice act is great. The story is great. The gameplay is great. It really picks up in the second game, so you do have to kind of keep that in mind. But a lot of people run around with this narrative that the Xbox Series X is, the tools are finally in and we're starting to see the simple math that makes it that much better or whatever. No. I'm sorry. That's just not the case here. This is backwards compatibility, and I know people don't understand it. They think that, oh, well, there's just a hard drive. Shouldn't it work on everything faster? No, because if you watch the deep dive with Mark Cerny, you have to specifically program this hard drive and have to make your game work with that hard drive. So that's, I think, the big thing that a lot of people are refusing to understand. It's like, just because there's a DualSense controller, if I'm playing a PS4 game, the DualSense isn't going to give me that haptic feedback and all that kind of stuff because it wasn't built to use that stuff. It's the same thing with the hard drive. It was not exactly built to use that. So a lot of people find it a little bit odd that the Xbox Series X would load things faster. A good inclination on what really happened was Microsoft years ago on their SDKs allowed the Xbox One to be able to be programmed to run 120 frames per second games and things like this, knowing that the Xbox One couldn't really do that, but in preparation for the future. So they did a much better job at the time to get out there and make sure that all of these games are going to be running at the highest fidelity and the highest frame rate in the future. And that was a very smart move by them. I just like to point out that as far as what we're seeing on the PlayStation 5, like I said, there is no native PlayStation 5 version. People look at me like I have 3 heads when I mention that because, they're like, oh, there's not a native PS5 version. It's just, there isn't one. And there's not a native, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S version either. There's just the versions that are there, that are kind of there to push the narrative or whatever. There's only last gen versions of this game, and they said actually they're not going to do current gen versions of the game, meaning no PS5 version and no Xbox Series X version. It's just not going to happen. I think that that there's going to be a lot to kind of take in when you look at this game. But yeah, great franchise, I think. And I also think that a lot of people are probably taking this sort of maybe the wrong way. I got to be just 100% honest with it. This is, like I said, it's old games. This isn't a PS5 or a Series X game. We'll have to wait and see how those work out. But pretty much all the new games that have come out have all favored the PS5 in terms of loading, and I think that that's going to be something that continues because no matter how you might slice it, the PlayStation 5 has a better solid state drive than the Xbox Series X. We just got to deal with it. I know that that's hard to do with sometimes, but honestly, you just got to be able to sit there and admit this sometimes. Hey, it's there. It's got to sit there, and you got to be a certain way with this stuff, and that's just the way it is. The Xbox Series X is technically more powerful on paper. At the same time, 100%, the hard drive with the PlayStation 5 is like way more quick and way more better built. That's why they're having trouble finding one that can actually be used for people, and hopefully they can get that worked out, this holiday or whatever. But yeah, very interesting to say the least, and I would love your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Again, it's not because the PlayStation 5 is weak or can't do it or can't do that. It all simply has to do with the fact that, it's these consoles using, backwards compatibility. And, a lot of people just refuse to kind of believe that, refuse to kind of get into the, the whole idea that this is something that's going on or that could happen. So now you guys know. I wanted to inform you guys. I will, of course, link this, and you guys can check it out. Let me know what you think. You can sound off. You can like, share, subscribe. I'm Crapgamer, and this has been Crapgamer Reviews. Hopefully you guys all have a fantastic day. And just remember that just because your personal favorite console might get outperformed this week doesn't mean that it's going to always get outperformed. Like, these things go back and forth. You have to take a lot of things into account, and at the end of the day, it doesn't even really matter. Enjoy the games, enjoy what you want to enjoy, but at the end of the day, just have fun enjoying games, because that's what it's all about. Thanks for watching. Crapgamer out.